Our history tells of countless armed heroes in the past, figures such as Audie Murphy, Desmond Doss, and Alvin York. But a notable similarity among them is that they are white. History seldom mentions countless remarkable black heroes who made great feats in war. One specific black figure became a legacy to be followed by many more, the first of our kind to ever be worthy of the highest praise of the armed forces of the United States. This remarkable individual is none other than Sergeant William H. Carney. What exactly happened that an enslaved man became a hero of the very country that seemingly despised him? William H. Carney was born to William Carney Sr. and Ann Dean in Norfolk, Virginia on February 29, 1840. Though his physical body was enslaved upon birth, his thirst for knowledge and his imagination were very much free. By the age of 14, he defied the oppressive laws of the 1800s by attending a secret school run by a minister. Despite the risks posed by anti-literacy laws, Carney learned to read and write, immersing himself in the study of the Bible through his education. Later, his family was freed from slavery and settled in another location. The specific path to freedom for William H. Carney and his family is not definitively known. Some reports suggest that Carney has escaped independently through the Underground Railroad and reunited with his father in Massachusetts. Alternatively, there are accounts indicating that Carney's father may have secured his son's freedom after obtaining his own through the Underground Railroad. Eventually, the Carney family settled in New Bedford, Massachusetts, where Carney's mother joined them following the passing of her enslaver. Carney's hidden education and deep religious beliefs initially led him to contemplate a career in the church. However, in 1863, when the United States Army opened combat roles to African Americans, Carney's aspirations shifted. In a letter penned in October of that year, Carney expressed, "Though I felt a strong calling towards ministry, the call of duty to my country and fellow oppressed brethren prevailed. Thus I concluded that my service to God was best fulfilled through serving my nation." With this resolve, he enlisted for the war. William H. Carney, just 23 years old, joined the Morgan Guards in February of 1863. This black militia, originally named for a white benefactor from New Bedford, changed its name to the Toussaint Guards 1 month after Carney joined. The new name Toussaint came from the leader of the Haitian Revolution, Toussaint Louverture. The Haitian Revolution, a successful revolt of the enslaved population in Haiti, led to the abolition of slavery on the island and the establishment of the first black republic in the Americas. While the Civil War started in 1861, African Americans were initially prohibited from serving as soldiers for the Union Army. It wasn't until President Abraham Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation in 1863 that they were allowed to enlist. When Massachusetts called for black soldiers, the Toussaint Guards, including Carney, soon joined with the 54th Massachusetts Volunteer Infantry Regiment, which was notable for being the first African American regiment in the North. The Emancipation Proclamation was a significant milestone in the fight against slavery during the American Civil War. The proclamation declared that all enslaved people in Confederate-held territory were to be set free, effectively changing the legal status of millions of African Americans from enslaved to free individuals. However, it appears that the Emancipation Proclamation did not immediately end slavery or stop the Civil War. Its impact was constrained by several factors, including its limited geographic scope and the complex political and military considerations surrounding its issuance. The proclamation only applied to Confederate-held territory, exempting areas under Union control where slavery remained legal. This meant that its immediate effects were felt primarily in the Confederate states in rebellion, where the Union had limited authority to enforce it. The Emancipation Proclamation was just one part of a larger struggle for freedom and equality that would continue long after the end of the war. And while it represented a significant turning point in the fight against slavery and the advancement of civil rights, its issuance did not immediately end all the conflict and chaos. Confederate leaders and supporters remained committed to the preservation of slavery and the Confederate cause, leading to continued fighting and bloodshed on the battlefield. Ultimately, the Civil War persisted for about 2 more years until the Confederate forces surrendered in 1865, marking the end of slavery in the United States and the beginning of a new era of Reconstruction and nation building. One particularly important fight that happened after the Emancipation Proclamation was the Second Battle of Fort Wagner. Under the leadership of Massachusetts Governor John A. Andrew, an all-black volunteer regiment was organized. Abolitionists are driven by the desire to end slavery as they made gallant efforts in recruitment. Due to the overwhelming number of volunteers, 2 regiments were formed: the 54th Massachusetts Infantry Regiment, which was where Carney was placed, and the 55th. Oddly, white commanding officers were responsible for leading and training the black volunteers. And following their training completion in May 1863, the regiments departed to join the conflict. The 54th Massachusetts Infantry Regiment was initially tasked with raiding Darien, Georgia, although their officers objected to this directive, preferring them to engage in combat rather than pillaging. With this mission, they disrupted Confederate supply lines, communication networks, and morale, contributing to the overall war effort of the Union. Soon after, on July 16, 1863, the regiment saw their first battle at James Island, South Carolina, followed by the Battle of Fort Wagner just 2 days later. Led by Colonel Robert Gould Shaw, the 54th, along with the Union troops, advanced on the fort, facing around 1,800 Confederate soldiers. As the brave soldiers of the 54th Massachusetts Infantry Regiment began their march, they knew they were marching into the jaws of danger, with the weight of an entire race resting on their shoulders. As difficult as it already is to participate in war, these brave black soldiers still faced scorn and ridicule even while on their path to freedom, with their courage and abilities questioned by those who doubted their resolve. Mocked by white regiments, they were told that they would flee at the first sign of trouble. Lacking the bravery of their counterparts, they were even denied the chance to lead themselves, dismissed as lacking in leadership qualities. But even under all of these, they were not fazed. They were determined to shatter these misconceptions and prove their critics wrong. With hearts brimming with determination, they marched forward, ready to defy the odds and show the world the true measure of their courage and strength. Despite heavy bombardment from the Union naval fleet, the Confederates fiercely defended the fort, raining bullets upon the advancing 54th. Nevertheless, under Shaw's command, the regiment pressed forward, navigating through the moat and up the fort slope. Any regiment attempting to approach Fort Wagner would undoubtedly suffer significant casualties. The narrow strip of land leading to the fort was so confined that only one regiment could advance at a time, rendering the Union forces unable to fully leverage their numerical superiority. Regrettably, this strip lacked any substantial cover, leaving any advancing troops vulnerable to the accurate fire of Confederate defenders stationed within Fort Wagner. The fort was strategically positioned with artillery aimed to repel ground assaults, complemented by additional artillery support from neighboring fortifications like Fort Sumter. Compounding the challenge was the layout of Fort Wagner's walls, which allowed the Confederates to subject their attackers to a deadly crossfire, severely impeding the 54th's attempts to breach the fortifications. To support the assault, American ground artillery and naval guns bombarded Fort Wagner for 6 hours. Despite the barrage, which resulted in 8 deaths and 20 injuries among the 1,700 Confederate soldiers stationed there, the fort remained largely undamaged. Instead of weakening the defenses, the bombardment inadvertently alerted the Confederate forces to the impending attack. Consequently, when the 54th Massachusetts Regiment launched their assault, they faced an intact barricade manned by prepared Confederate troops. During the intense battle, Colonel Shaw was killed, yet the 54th Massachusetts Infantry Regiment persevered. The regiment endured significant losses, with 280 out of their 600 soldiers either killed, wounded, captured, or missing in action. Despite ongoing efforts by additional Union forces, the battle, lasting several hours, ended with the Union Army's withdrawal, unable to dislodge the Confederate defenders. This engagement stands as a crucial proof to the valor of black soldiers during the Civil War and served as inspiration for further enlistments among African Americans. As the battle continued, Carney witnessed many Allied soldiers fall, some of whom were even his friends. In one fateful moment, the flag bearer of the 54th was fatally shot. Without hesitation, Carney quickly jumped to catch the flag, refusing to let it touch the ground. Carney himself was shot multiple times, but he stood his ground and endured with his wounds. Advancing little by little, he was able to hold the flag without letting it touch the ground. Maintaining the integrity of the flag uplifted the morale of troops, and it reminded them with a sense of purpose and determination. This act of Carney inspired numerous soldiers to persevere in the face of the adversity they are currently in. and to uphold the principles for which the flag stands. Soon after, the 54th received official orders to temporarily retreat. Other soldiers helped Carney as he needed immediate medical attention. Despite sustaining severe injuries during the Battle of Fort Wagner, Carney courageously rescued the American flag, declaring, "I did but my duty. The dear old flag never touched the ground." Carney discarded his weapon and advanced to the forefront of the regiment with the colors. This very act represented the 54th's pride as U.S. Army soldiers, as well as the bravery and military competence of all the black soldiers fighting for their freedom. Carney was soon discharged from service in 1864 and returned to Massachusetts, while the 54th continued their service throughout the remainder of the Civil War, participating in campaigns in Florida and South Carolina. Sergeant William H. Carney's dismissal from the United States Army was honorable, prompted by all the injuries he sustained during the Battle of Fort Wagner. Upon his return to New Bedford, Massachusetts, he secured employment as the 4th African-American postal worker in the state, a role he faithfully fulfilled for 32 years. In May 1900, nearly 40 years after the Battle of Fort Wagner, Sergeant Carney was awarded the Medal of Honor for his courageous actions. He is among 22 African Americans to receive this prestigious medal for their Civil War service, with his actions being the earliest to be recognized with such an honor. African American soldiers in the Union Army faced significant risks as they were threatened with death or enslavement by the Confederates. Despite these dangers, Carney and others fought bravely. Captain Luis F. Emilio noted the government's hesitant policies that often left soldiers without proper compensation. As a formerly enslaved man, Carney understood the risks involved in fighting for the freedom of others. Carney's service in the 54th Massachusetts Infantry Regiment, alongside other black soldiers, also defied the prevailing belief that African Americans were unfit for combat and lacked the courage to fight for their country. By demonstrating extraordinary valor and sacrifice on the battlefield, Carney and his fellow soldiers shattered these stereotypes and proved their worth as capable and courageous fighters. The recognition of Carney's heroism with the Medal of Honor sent a powerful message about the contributions of African American soldiers to the Union cause. It was a significant step towards acknowledging the equality of black soldiers and recognizing their rightful place in the nation's history. Carney's story was shared in newspapers, speeches, and publications, inspiring others to challenge discrimination and fight for equal rights under the law. In the years following the Civil War, Carney remained actively involved in the struggle for civil rights, lending his voice and support to various initiatives aimed at securing full citizenship rights for African Americans. He participated in veterans organizations and civil rights groups, advocating for the rights of black veterans and working towards a more inclusive society. Following his tenure at the Postal Service, Carney took up a position as a messenger at the Massachusetts State House. For 43 years post-Civil War, he remained actively involved in black veterans organizations. As a member of the Grand Army of the Republic Post-1, he participated in reunions and commemorative events for battle anniversaries. In 1889, he notably sang the Star-Spangled Banner at a ceremony. Tragically, in November 1908, Carney sustained fatal injuries in an elevator accident at the State House. According to many reports, he was attempting to step back to allow others to enter when the doors closed, trapping his leg. Sergeant William H. Carney, who led a life of humble service, passed away at Boston City Hospital on December 9, 1908. He was laid to rest in Oak Grove Cemetery in New Bedford, Massachusetts, where his tombstone bears a replica of his Medal of Honor. The tale of William H. Carney and his heroism that earned a Medal of Honor not only acknowledges his individual acts of bravery, but also reminds us of the deep struggle that soldiers had to endure for civil rights and equality. His courage and sacrifice paved the way for future generations of African Americans to serve proudly in the military and to continue the fight for justice and equality in all aspects of society. As fellow people of color, we can stand proud knowing that bravery is within us, running deep in our history. In every obstacle we face, we can find opportunity. Every challenge becomes a chance to showcase our determination. And with this, nothing can stop us from achieving greatness. Thank you for staying until the end of the video. If you like this content, please subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any future uploads. Don't forget to like, comment, and share. We look forward to seeing you in the next video.